Hi, everyone. This is Rev Kimmy. Thank you so much for joining us.
And I'm Dr. G. Thank you for listening to our podcast today. What are we going to talk about, Rev Kimmy?
We're going to discuss what we believe happened to Riley Strain and where Riley is right now.
Okay.
Also, is Riley a victim of the smiley face killers? Now, if you guys don't know, that Dr. G is one of the co-founders on the smiley face killers theory. He was also a part of the Oxygen Channel's Smiley Face Killers, The Hunt for Justice, the 6-episode series, not the movie. And he's also written books, forensic drowning books and stuff like that. He's considered an expert. He is backed by Dr. Cyril Wecht.
Yeah.
He was also on the TV show. And so Dr. G is an expert. And like I said, he co-founded with his New York homicide detective friends who are also on the TV series. They co-founded the Smiley Face Killers theory. So it is speculated out there and talked about on social media greatly that Riley has been killed by the Smiley Face Killers. So we have the expert here, Dr. G, who is in a bit going to be discussing whether or not he thinks that occurred.
Yeah, and just as a precursor to my analysis of what's going on, we had no clue. I mean, we've been following the case, but we had no clue that Riley's disappearance was being attributed to the Smiley Face Killers. And I was quite surprised when I first heard that. So I'm like, what? The parents even mentioned it during the
news conference yesterday.
I didn't know that, but you pointed it out to me.
Yeah, today
so
is March 20th, 2024, and so they had a news conference yesterday, and I saw that. They're saying, don't say that he's been killed from a serial killer. I'm like, and then we started Googling, and we're seeing, but people are speculating that he has been abducted and murdered by the Smiley Face Killers. So we're going to be discussing that.
Yeah, I did a search on Riley Strain Smiley Face Killers, and oh my goodness, I couldn't believe all the traffic out there on Reddit and TikTok, and I found some Facebook pages I didn't even know about, and it's all over there. And
we're going to discuss that in a bit.
It's just craziness, actually, but... Okay, so what's next? What would you like to talk about?
I think that not everyone has heard of this case, so let's give the background of Riley, the facts of the case briefly.
Okay.
And then we will talk about my prophetic analysis of my gifts that are used on missing person cases throughout America.
Okay. This young man, Riley Strain, is a 22-year-old white male, 6'7". My goodness, he's tall.
Yeah, he's very tall.
Blonde hair, blue eyes, very slender. They say he's between 155 and 160 pounds. My goodness, that is slender. He is a senior at the University of Missouri, and he is a finance and business major. He's currently interning at Northwestern Mutual. Okay? And all of that's important, and we'll come back to that. This is demographics, and if you're curious as to, my research, we'll get into that. I had 208 variables in my database when I analyzed these young men back in 2006, 2008.
You mean the Smiley Face Killers?
Yep, and started analyzing, compiling it. What we do know, and
if you guys don't know, you can watch the Smiley Face Killers on Amazon right now. It originally it was on Oxygen Channel, but right now it is on Amazon Prime. But make sure it's the 6 episodes, not the movie. They're not affiliated at all with the movie.
The movie is fiction, not even based on the theory and there is somebody put up a Wikipedia page on the theory, and it's mostly correct representation. Anyway, back to Riley. Well, we just learned today, looking online, trying to keep up with this, and this is important too. He was at 3 different bars, and he was in contact. He had called his mom, and he was texting her over about a 2-hour period. And he was in 3 different bars: Casa Rosa, Luke's 32 Bridge, and Friends in Low Places Bar and Honky Tonk. And when I looked at them on the map, they're all about within 600 feet of each other, about a block and a half. Definitely within walking distance, and they are actually in a line leading back to the hotel where he was staying with his fraternity brothers. So that's some pretty serious activity right there. And so that's the background on him. There's video keeps popping up of him walking down the street, running. He talked to a police officer at one point, and we'll comment on all of those briefly as we go along here. He does appear to be exceedingly intoxicated, and
as we've all seen on the video.
Could be drugs, could be drunk.
Well, initially, I was considering 1 drink. We all heard,
1 drink.
Oh my gosh, he must be drugged. But the thing is that when we learned later, he had been at 2 other bars prior. Made sense. Now things are making sense.
Yeah,
as well as his last text, which he said something about
good lops.
Yeah, instead of.
Yeah, LOPS. What is
good
that?
times, instead. So, I mean, that just reflects that he had been drinking.
Yeah.
I don't think there's some hidden message in there for anyone.
Yeah, everybody is saying, oh, he had to be drugged, which was actually is a characteristic of the smiley face killer victims. Everyone that we had tested or the medical examiner actually thought to test, which is an extra test. It's not a part of the normal autopsy. They did find GHB, except for one victim had phenylethylamine or something like that. But GHB is used by weightlifters, but it's also used as a date rape drug. It shuts the recorder off, but you're still somewhat functional. They can just lead you like a puppy down the road.
But we witnessed nobody was leading him down the road.
No, not at all. And when you read the stuff online that I found, they're all saying, oh, he had to have been drugged because he only had 1 drink. And I saw one where they said, well, when he's talking to that police officer, he does not sound drunk. Okay. I started looking at this back in 2006, and it took off. I was on Fox locally in Chicago. I was on a Milwaukee station, and there was a reporter, you can find it online, from Wisconsin, that Milwaukee, I think she was. She came over and did an interview with me, and then she went to La Crosse, and she was on the street with a portable breathalyzer. And she asked this one individual, a male, which way is school, which way is this, which way is the river, which way is the park, and he was accurately pointing out every location. And she said, how much have you had to drink? And he goes, oh, about 10 drinks or so. And she goes, what do you think your BAC is? And he goes, oh, it's pretty high. And if you listen to his speech, you're like, this guy's had 2 drinks maybe? He sounds, like he's had a drink, but that's about it. Take a guess what he blew.
I don't know.
0.225.
Wow.
This dude shouldn't have been standing, but he was. And talking coherently.
Some people have a tolerance
he
to it
wasn't slurring.
Yeah.
He knew his north, south, east, and west and everything. So I'm not going to judge a person's level of sobriety based on how clear their speech is. I learned that watching that video. She did that to several people.
I can't speak
just shocking.
I can't speak for the police department or the detective or, the deputy or officer whose cam, recorder, we were watching him interact with Riley.
Yeah.
However, I would imagine that if Riley appeared to have been in trouble, that officer would have interceded.
One would think so, yeah. And it is incredible how much alcohol the human body can actually take. I remember shortly after she did that study on the street with college students in La Crosse, Wisconsin, I think it was actually, sadly, here in Minnesota, they pulled a woman out of a car. She was driving erratically, and they pulled her over, and she blew a .4. She should. I remember seeing it and thinking, wow, she should have been deceased, not driving. Definitely not sitting upright in a car. Anyway, should I get into the analysis a little bit here? And
I think we're going to discuss my prophetic analysis first.
Okay.
You talking about your cereal, the smiley face?
Yeah. So what?
Yeah.
What is
We're gonna
your
shift now.
opinion
If you guys-
based on your gift?
If this is the first time you guys are hearing about me, and have no idea what it is I do, I'm a Christian ordained reverend with ministry gifts. They're prophetic gifts, where the Lord gives me the knowledge that so happens to work on missing person cases, or some turn out to be homicides. And so I'm able to have, the Lord shows me the truth, insight, because I used it in hospital ministry for 20 years. The Lord would show me so-and-so is going to die soon. You need to go minister to him. And it made no logical sense because the person's somewhat in her 40s. She doesn't look like she's going to die, but I'm not privy as a chaplain at a hospital. You're not privy to their medical records. I don't really know what's wrong with her, right? But heard the Lord's voice. So, it's an impression, not a real audible voice. And so I would go minister to the person and prepare him for heaven as the Lord said, and I'll be darned, the person did die 2 weeks later. So I have learned time after time that the prophetic information is always accurate. So I have been used since 1997 on missing person cases. I either am requested by law enforcement, or I collaborate with them, or I work, my heart, I see something in the news about the case, so then I approach them and give them the prophetic analysis by email.
Yep.
So that was the case. The latter is the case with Riley Strain's case. And I gave the prophetic analysis to the police chief on Riley's case. And so what the Lord showed me through prayer and worship, I am not a psychic or a medium. This comes from the Holy Spirit, which is, do you remember the Bible verse that they can go to if anybody wants to verify my
Acts
gifts?
2:17.
Yeah, go to the book of the Holy Bible, Acts 2:17, and you will see that daughter shall prophesy. This is a gift that I received upon believing in Jesus and receiving him back in 1997.
Yeah.
So
Always extremely accurate.
yeah, it's accurate, guys.
Idaho 4.
And I put it in writing. I'm a litigation and trial paralegal at the top top law firms of our country, like Robert Shapiro, who handled the O.J. Simpson criminal case. I worked at his law firm many times, as well as Ken Starr, who handled Monica Lewinsky's case. I literally was using his office to study to be a USA women's gymnastics judge because he was over at the Pepperdine. He was the dean of law
and
there at the law school. So I was in his office. Right. Seriously, it was huge corner office. It was beautiful. But anyway, so because I'm a litigation and trial paralegal, I use the skill set and blend it with what it is that the Lord is showing me prophetically. Then I've learned for years this is reliable, so I report it in writing, and then it comes to pass exactly as I said. So then I share the stories with everyone publicly to know that God is real. These gifts are real. You can go on my Facebook and look at a pinned docuseries and look at the emails or call log evidence, stuff like that, to prove to you that I called it before it occurred. Okay? and which it's not me, it's God using me. So, to help victims, right? So what the Lord showed me, I went to praise and worship. I built myself up in the Holy Spirit where my gifts come from and the information. And God showed me that Riley Strain thought he was headed in the right direction to the hotel. He's lost, not knowing, because he drank too much, right? Yep. And so the confusion, he inadvertently fell into the river, and unfortunately he drowned and expired. And at this time, Riley is in the water and he has not come up yet. Now, Dr. G here is endorsed, like I said, from Dr. Wecht, yeah, Dr. Sorrell Wecht, and yep. He's known, one of the most known examiners,
forensic pathologist.
He's done what famous ones are he's known for?
JFK and a host of others.
He's famous.
He even wrote the little note on the back of our book cover and
endorsed you for your for his skill set. So I asked Dr. G, based on what the Lord showed me about Riley, I asked Dr. G how long would it take him to come up. I guess what happens is eventually gas fills in the body, right?
Yeah.
And they bloat and they float. And so this is what they call it in his forensic world. And so Dr. G said he should come up between 8 and 12 days based on the temperature of the water. If it was summertime, it would be 3 to 4 or 2 to 4 or something like that.
Yeah, probably 3 to 4. And usually lakes, they'll come up a little sooner than a river.
So, if you guys don't know, I prophesied on the case of Regan Hetzig. It was huge in the news. In fact, I worked that litigation case, the head-on boat accident, at the law firm prior to me going and working with the sergeant in Mojave Sheriff's Department, who was the lead on the case. Everyone tried to find her. There were divers everywhere coming from through the country or other countries, and they all tried so hard to find her, Regan Hetzig's body in Lake Havasu, and she nobody could find her. So at the time, I was involved, like I told you, the litigation. I'm a litigation trial paralegal, so I was involved at the law firm on her case. However, I had a huge conflict of interest. I was on the part of the legal team representing the boat that put Regan Hetzig in the water. So by no means on the weekend or my own time could I go and get involved in the recovery of Regan Hetzig's body. So I had to wait until I fulfilled my contract of an independent contractor. I have my own business, and until I was done working litigation cases and trial cases. So months had gone by. Then when I was able to go, I approached the sergeant in charge. He said, "Oh, Kim, you can't work the case unless we're able to confirm with law enforcement you've worked with them before." So he contacted a homicide detective at Los Angeles Sheriff's Department who I'd been helping for a year or so or whatever it was, on a local case, and he confirmed yes, Kim had. So then the sergeant at Mojave Sheriff's Department used me, and so I had prayed and asking the Lord what is going to occur, and after seriously praying a few hours, the Lord revealed to me that she would come up. She's stuck right now, and that she will eventually come up onto land and be discovered, called in, and found. Well, that took 2 years from the point of the head-on collision, which I think is a miracle for her, to her remains to come up and be found. But as the Lord said, that word came to pass on Regan's case. That was a miracle that we all witnessed. But my point of this is, I had said to the sergeant, she's stuck on something. Now, if Riley does not come up within what Dr. G is saying, 8 to 12 days after his going missing, then he's most likely stuck on something. And when would he come up? I don't know. The Lord's not showing that. But I know that eventually he will come up and be discovered. He will be, because the Lord has clearly shown me that. So it reminds me of the Regan Hetze case in Lake Havasu. And sometimes unfortunate accidents that people have in water, their bodies do get stuck on things. So that's why it probably appears that there's some criminal situation going on, but I don't believe it is. And let me tell you why. Now, my litigation and trial paralegal skill set, putting aside my gifts, let's use some logic and the evidence that we have, tangible evidence. Number one, we have tangible evidence of his ATM card found right near the water. Mm-hmm. Okay? Literally next to the water. Okay, now what I believe happened is, when we're out, I was a teenager once, right? Or, in my early 20s, as Riley was in his early 20s. We would drink and have fun, but you start to lose being able to open your wallet and put things away as you should, or any kind of order, because you're relaxed and you're having fun and you're drinking some. And so I think that he put his ATM card, after paying for a drink or food or whatever it may be, into his pocket, either front or back. And as he fell into the water, I believe that slipped out of his pocket. And that's why the girls found his ATM debit card there. And I believe that's also where he last pinged. So that's evidence. It's not evidence of a criminal situation. So let's say it is. I could prove to you through logic that it's not. The likelihood is not. Why? Because let me tell you, if I was a criminal and I found an ATM card, I would go try to use it, wouldn't we? We're criminals. So the card actually would not be found. Okay? The debit card would not be found. It would be you trying to be used for the money. So that's why I don't believe it's a criminal thing. It fell out of his pocket inadvertently as he fell. Number two, we have evidence now that they're saying online that the cell phone died not because of the battery. Okay? They found that through official sources, that the battery was not dead at the time when his phone died. Okay? So that also backs what the Lord showed me, that the likelihood is he fell into the water, and when the water hit his cell phone, the phone died. Okay? And to me, I don't usually come out and do podcast episodes until the case is resolved, so that I don't upset people or mislead people or what have you. But we wanted to come on and to talk about that we don't believe this is a smiley face killer situation. Dr. G is one of the founders, okay? And that's why we are coming out earlier, and we do have two tangible evidence. We have evidence that backs what I'm saying, that Riley unfortunately fell into the water and drowned from too much, alcohol on board.
Yeah.
Most likely.
And you're right. You don't need a PIN, personal identification number, to use a debit card.
No, because it runs on credit. Just tell it run on credit.
I've been lots of places where it gives you a choice, debit or credit. You get credit.
Yeah, it runs without it.
It runs right straight through. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is an unfortunate accident, is what I believe. And I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm entitled to freedom of speech, and to share what it is that I believe and what I reported to the police chief directly on Riley's case. Days ago I did this. Days ago. I don't even know what day.
There are apps.
But maybe a week ago or so.
Our
I don't know.
app tells us what the battery charge is on the Ring doorbell. 360 tells us what the battery level is on our phones.
And you know what? I think that what the police did, I think so far, because I've been involved on a lot of cases, missing person cases, and I think they've done an amazing job. I mean, they've had the boats, they've had the divers, they've had the cadaver dogs, or tracking dogs.
Drones.
They went longer than most cases search. And most places, like you try LA, they'll search for a day or two and that's it. city's too big, or they're too busy, or they can't handle that. So I think we should applaud them. We should be grateful. The parents and the family should be grateful. I've never witnessed them put out so much effort. So, and I think it's appropriate personally that they have shifted it to the cold case detectives, because I believe that the chief and the active, I can't speak for them, this is my opinion, okay, that I believe that it's appropriate because of the fact that they've done everything that they can do. Now all the cold case detectives can do is be open to hearing tips, look into those tips, and seriously, people should be getting their binoculars out and watching the water for him to come up. That's what people should be doing. Yeah. And maybe that's what the police are doing. I don't know. I cannot speak for them.
Yeah, from a drowning perspective and my research, if he's not discovered very shortly, in the next couple days or even today, then in all likelihood, like you said, he's stuck on something, and it could be
people should be praying for
the
him
middle
to
of
come
April,
up
the
miraculously.
end of April before he shows up. It could be longer, but I doubt it.
Well, I mean, Regan Hetzig took 2 years from the point of the accident, and I'd have to look at the records, but I may have gone a year after the accident. It was after everyone searched. Everyone was done. Mm-hmm. So it could take a while, and I don't believe people, because he's still missing, and that time of 8 to 12 days have gone by, then, something criminal must have happened to him. I don't believe so. It just means that he's stuck on something.
Yeah. Well,
do you want to talk about the smiley face?
And
I asked you this morning, why is it that you don't believe that Riley is involved with the smiley face killers? Why is he not a victim, Dr. G?
Well, to start with, when I first became aware of these cases back in February 2006, I went online and I was looking for information on a local college student who was missing, and found all these, basically 3 websites, and I was drawn immediately to how much they looked alike. So I started compiling a very small spreadsheet and doing the analysis, and then I expanded from there. But when I first looked at their height and their weight, and then I calculated their body mass index and looked at that, I'm like, wow, there's like the standard deviation was extremely small, and it was very, very close to the mean, which tells me that there's not sufficient enough, statistically speaking, spread in the data and randomness, and therefore the victims were not random. They were a very select group. You didn't have any tall, slender people, or short, slender people, or tall, heavy, overweight people, and vice versa. They were a very, very small group. We had one overweight graduate student, but that was it. So when we look at the victim characteristics, and the folks who talk about this and say, he's potentially a smiley face killer's
Can I interject
victim.
For a second, Dr. G? If you guys don't know, Dr. G is literally a doctor. It's not just a nickname. He is a professor at a university, and he teaches criminal justice as well as forensic victimology.
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to hear some technical things, and that's why.
Yeah, and when they talk about him being a potential victim, it's a very shallow analysis, and they're speaking from a position of a lack of knowledge. Yes, he is the correct major. To some extent, we've had some victims in finance and business, insurance and risk assessment and stuff like that, but most of them are engineers. It's the sciences that they're in. And even though most of them are athletes, not all, and they're the captain of their team or they are the high scorer, They're actually at school, most of them, on academic scholarships, not athletic scholarships. So they're like 3.8, 4.0 GPAs.
And we don't know Riley's.
Yeah, I don't know Riley's GPA, but
he's outside the box though for certain
reasons. The only thing he fits is the major, his year in school,
and he's good looking,
and he's blonde and blue eyed.
I think most are
and he looks
good
fit.
looking.
Yeah, he's
We don't know if he's
easy
athletic.
on the eyes, as they would say.
Yeah, and he's we don't know if he's athletic. Aren't they athletic?
Yeah, they're. I'd say 95% of them are athletes.
Yeah, we don't
lacrosse,
know. We don't know
football,
about
soccer,
Riley.
stuff like that. But like I said, what first made me aware of that there's something wrong with this set of victims is their body mass index and their height. The maximum height of our victims that I know of is 6'3". He's 6'7".
So he's way too tall.
Oh, he's way too tall. And not only that, but he's way too slender. In fact, he is what we would call an extreme outlier. The maximum body mass index that I have is 38.01, and the minimum is 18.83. And that top one is stretched a little bit because of that one overweight graduate student. The average is 24.25. Riley comes in at 17.5 to 18. He's way too slender. He is, in fact, underweight according to national standards. The other thing that stands out to me then is because I got really good, Kevin and I, at predicting
Kevin is
when.
Kevin Gannon.
Yeah, Kevin Gannon, Detective Sergeant, NYPD, homicide, and he did missing persons for a while.
Yeah, he's a part of the Smiley Face Killers co-founder.
Yep. And we got really, really good. Sadly, I mean, if somebody says, "Oh, this doesn't exist," well, it got to a point where I was telling my students in class, "There's going to be a victim this weekend between Thursday and Sunday in this city," and there was. And then they started asking me, "Where were you this weekend?" So I would go over to Super America every 8 hours or whatever and use the ATM just so I was on camera locally. Yeah, so it's the wrong month, folks. We don't have smiley face victims who get abducted in March.
Ever?
We have some that went missing at the end of the month, and there's another thing.
Let me ask you a question. How many have you guys calculated victims?
I have over 300 in my database.
Okay, and not one has been abducted during this time that Riley was?
No. The closest you can have is one that disappeared in Ohio on March 31st.
And then that region also is not ever...
Yeah, that's another thing. Most of them are up north. Interstate 80, Interstate 90, Interstate 94. Tennessee? No, I can't think of one.
So not only do my gifts affirm that, and evidence so far that's coming forward, like I said, the ATM card being found next to the water. Also, the cell phone dying instantly, but it's not the battery that did it. Water does that.
Well, there's two more
reasons. It doesn't
reasons.
Match up, according to Dr. G, as a smiley face killer.
It's the wrong
victim.
physical status. It's the wrong time of year. And here's another one. Here's another one.
People should be praying for him to come up.
How come no one's posting any pictures of graffiti? And it's not just the smiley face. There has to be other graffiti that I can recognize.
That you're not going to
disclose, But nobody's even posting a smiley face.
Yeah.
Now you watch, somebody's going to go out and put one up and take a picture of it.
But it wasn't there before.
Here's another characteristic. Our victims walk out of the bar and they're either ejected because of their behavior.
Really?
But guess what? We don't find them on camera repeatedly from location to location walking across town. We might ping their phone, but I have learned where your phone is not necessarily where you are. Right. Somebody could have their phone. And like that one case you went with me in Wisconsin, the phone pinged 2 miles away in the wrong direction that he was on camera.
Oh, right. When I told you with my gifts, he went the other way.
Even though the
camera,
they had him on camera a block north.
Is that the one you tested me and not telling me? He went that way, but I said, no, he went that way, the other way?
Yeah. But they got this poor young man on camera in several locations. Now, granted, he is walking and pinging at about 90 degrees from where he was supposed to go. That's common.
Yeah,
but
so
I can
it's
tell
really
you
a
that
sad situation.
the ping
Poor
on
Riley.
the ping on the phone is not going to be the direction that he ends up. I can tell you that just from the drownings, even the non-SFK ones I've looked at.
Oh, yeah.
But how come he's on video repeatedly? There's no graffiti. It's
There's
the
no
wrong month.
He's fine. He's not in distress. He's nobody
and
with him.
he doesn't have the physical characteristics.
And let me tell you, again, the ATM card on the ground, it totally affirms there's no criminal action in here. Because that would be missing. It wouldn't be on the ground.
Not a victim of the smiley face killers.
Yeah, there's no criminal thing here. People should be praying for his remains to come up and be found.
Yeah, the family needs closure.
And that they get rest. Everyone get rest and peace. And just wait on the Lord for him to come up. People should be praying and everyone de-stress. It's an unfortunate situation, accident. And it's really sad. But I think it shows the community, the support, the love of strangers. We're strangers. We don't know Riley or his family. We're in a complete different state. We have not even gone to the location where he's at or to the state where he's, where the incident occurred. We are in a different state. So, people care. People do care. And that's why we get interested in missing person cases, right? I did, like I said, hospital ministry for 20 years, about 100 people a week that I cared for. And they would die, and then some other people would come up, and I'd get new people. And I love and care about everyone. My gifts are here for everyone. I have accuracy on missing person cases, and if it so happens to help the police to head in the right direction, they need to do the digging and find the evidence. But if it helps the victim, ultimately is what I'm doing, because I don't tip the family. Why? They don't have the means to go find the person or help them. I don't. So the only one who does is law enforcement. So that's why I reach out to them. It only makes logical sense. So, maybe they conclude the same thing right now. Maybe they're waiting for him to come up as well. I don't know.
Yeah, and as you talk about care, God cares about me. He cares about you.
Everybody.
He cares about Riley, and he cares about every one of our listeners out there. And if you're having problems or questions or
you want a prophetic analysis on your own life, you could contact me, email me.
Reach out to Rev Kimmy.
And we can set up an appointment. And, I minister to people for, I don't even know how many years it's been now. A long time.
Yeah.
And
so how can they contact us?
Yeah, they have to do it through our email, which is?
It's revkimmy.drg. So it's REVKYMMI period or dot DRG at gmail.com. revkimmy.drg@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can write us just to share what you thought of this podcast episode, or you can make a request for a prophetic analysis appointment for your own life and see how God can help you. Mm-hmm. There are, many things that you could write us about. So anyway, is there anything else that you wanted to add, Dr. G?
No, I think that's it. I just wanted to really emphasize that this is not the result of criminal activity or some nefarious...
No, and the police don't think so either.
...killer cult. So.
And the police don't either. And I saw on that press conference that the parents are going out with the gentleman who's now helping them on the search. And they are supposed to get a boat today. So I think even they probably have possibly concluded the same thing, that he inadvertently fell in the water.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will talk to you again on our next episode. God bless.
Thank you. Bye-bye.